AGK's Vinyl Life. I'm your host, Anthony K. And on this week's episode, I'm doing a video that I've wanted to do since I started my channel almost 2 years ago. It's a video that I've kept putting off and off and off. And it's about a duo that are in my top 5 artists of all time. I love these guys. Like I said, in my top 5 artists of all time, my personal favorites. These guys are, to me, are the definition of synth pop. I followed them since their very beginning when they just had one single out, and have followed them to this day. They have continued to make music since 1984 right through to today, 2022. They are fantastic, and I'm talking about the Pet Shop Boys. That's right, Pet Shop Boys, otherwise known as PSB, to us pet heads, which is a nickname for Pet Shop Boys fans, pet heads. PSB, Pet Shop Boys. I love these guys. Like I said, I've wanted to do this video for a couple of years now, and I'm finally doing it. It's going to be a 2-part video because I've got so much to show you guys and discuss and cover that there's no way I could do it in one video. It would be a really long video. So it's going to be in 2 parts. The first episode airing now this week, and episode 2 will be next week. I'll be filming and airing episode 2 next week. So stay tuned for that one as well. So let's get on with it. A little salute right now to Chris Lowe, one of the 2 members of the Pet Shop Boys, who always, since about the Introspective album, has always appeared on stage and in public, always wearing a hat and always wearing some crazy form of glasses, never showing his face. It's become Chris Lowe's look. And to just get the ball rolling here, the Pet Shop Boys are a synth pop duo from the UK. They were founded in 1981, and they consist of the members of Neil Tennant, and here's Neil Tennant's Pop Funko for all you Funko fans. Neil Tennant on vocals and doing all the music. The master himself, Chris Lowe, doing all the keyboards and all the music. Just a duo, and they produce an incredible sound. And to me, they are probably the godfathers of synth pop. So let's get on to, I'm going to briefly talk about their roots, their history, just some of their achievements, and then we're going to get into showing lots of vinyl and CDs and videos and such. Let's not waste any more time. So there's my salute to Chris. I'm not going to wear these crazy glasses for the entire video because they're not the greatest to see through, and I think that'll kind of drive everybody crazy after a little while staring at that. But just a salute to you, Chris. I love you, Chris. I love you, Neil. And I'm so excited and happy to finally be doing this video. I've never seen anybody in the vinyl community do an in-depth look at Pet Shop Boys. They are legends. They are absolute legends. And let's get on with it. I'm just going to pop these glasses off and put my glasses on, and let's get on with it, shall we? And like magic, I've got my glasses on. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do this. Let's put these suckers over here. So yes, just I'm going to give you guys a brief history here. I've made some notes. This is just a brief history of the Pet Shop Boys' achievements. So I'm just going to read you off some notes that I have made regarding the Pet Shop Boys. Pet Shop Boys are an English synth pop duo formed in London in 1981, consisting primarily of vocalist Neil Tennant and keyboardist Chris Lowe. They have sold more than 100 million records worldwide and were listed as the most successful duo in UK music history in the 1999 edition of the Guinness Book of Records. They are 3-time Brit Award winners and 6-time Grammy nominees. Since 1984, they have achieved 42 top 30 singles, 22 of these being top 10 hits in the UK singles charts, including 4 UK number ones, also with West End Girls being a number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 as well. They've done duos with people. They've been involved with other different bands and groups. They do a lot of remixing of other artists' songs. We'll be talking about all that in the video. With 5 U.S. top 10 singles in the 1980s, they are associated with what's called the Second British Invasion. At 2009's Brit Awards in London, the Pet Shop Boys received the award for Outstanding Contribution in Music. In 2016, Billboard magazine named Pet Shop Boys the #1 dance duo group over 40 years since the chart's inception in 1976. And in 2017, the duo received NME's Godlike Genius Award. So the Pet Shop Boys are legends. They are legendary. If you people don't know who the Pet Shop Boys are, you need to give them a listen. They are fantastic. Like I said, they are in my top 5 artists of all time. I have more items in my vinyl, CD, DVD, etc. collection of the Pet Shop Boys than any other artist. I have close to 100 things on either 12-inch singles, 7-inch singles, albums, CDs, music videos, concert films, etc. Their work with other artists. Over 100 pieces in my collection. I have more from Pet Shop Boys than anybody else. And, people see me doing rock and roll and metal and all this and that. But I've always said that pop is a big part of my life, and synth pop and the Pet Shop Boys absolutely influential. I've seen every Pet Shop Boys tour that has come to Toronto. This is a tour t-shirt I'm wearing now from one tour, and the super tour hat on my head here. So I'm just so excited to be doing this video and happy to be doing this video. So let's get on with it. I've got lots to show you here. I've got LPs, CDs, music videos, all sorts of stuff here. And if you want to learn any more about the Pet Shop Boys, I highly suggest looking them up online. I just gave you some of their achievements. I don't want to waste too much more time. I've talked enough. Let's get to showing some music. So in 1984, the Pet Shop Boys would release their first single. At that time, working with Bobby Orlando and Epic Records. They would record a number of singles with Bobby Orlando. The first one to be released would be the legendary West End Girls. And this is the original UK first release of that single on Epic Records. Pet Shop Boys, West End Girls. This is the first of 3 completely different recordings of this song the Pet Shop Boys would do over their career. This was the West End Girls, which had a flip side to it called Pet Shop Boys, surprisingly enough. Pet Shop Boys on the B-side, West End Girls, extended mix. This was their original single they released with Bobby Orlando in 1984 that had some moderate success in clubs. It never really broke big here in North America. It had some play in North America, but never really broke big. It mostly got club play. But this would start them on the road in 1984, West End Girls. But it wouldn't be until 1985, after they parted ways with Bobby Orlando and were signed to Parlophone Records in 1985. It wouldn't be till 1985 that they would start to really gain steam after leaving Bobby Orlando. Even though West End Girl is a classic song, it wouldn't be this version of West End Girls that would make them famous. It would actually be the second recording of West End Girls that would make them famous, which was released in 1985. And it was released worldwide in 1985, became a massive hit. Like I said, it was the #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It made the Pet Shop Boys superstars overnight. And West End Girls, interestingly enough, I kind of look as almost a rap song. I kind of credit Pet Shop Boys to being an early artist to get a song with a rap out there on the radio. It was a slow rap, but to me, it's still all the same. It's a rap. And this is long before I'd ever heard of rap. But it was kind of a slow rap, the whole West End Girls thing. But a classic song, and that would be the second recording, released now working with Parlophone Records. They would completely re-record West End Girls, and it became a massive success. That would be followed by another single, Opportunities, Let's Make Lots of Money, which was they originally recorded with Bobby Orlando, but once again, they re-recorded it because the songs they had recorded with Bobby Orlando, of course, once they parted ways with Bobby Orlando, he retained the rights to all the recordings he'd made with the Pet Shop Boys. But they re-recorded Opportunities, Let's Make Lots of Money. and would release this one in 1985 after the huge success of West End Girls. And this too would become a massive, massive single and a smash hit for Pet Shop Boys in 1985. It would then be in 1986, and I've got my dates here, it would then be in March 24th, 1986, that the Pet Shop Boys would release their first album on Parlophone Records, simply titled Please. And as you can see, a very tiny, tiny photo of the Pet Shop Boys on the front cover. And some interesting things to note that you will see over the course of these videos is that the Pet Shop Boys albums have always had one-word titles. That's right, every single album in the Pet Shop Boys library, their studio albums, have always had one-word titles. And even some of their greatest hits compilations, also one-word titles. So they've tried to stick to that one-word title formula, and they've always had very simplistic, artsy art. Nothing fancy. Their albums have always had symbols on the cover and various artistic symbols and things on the cover. Neil Tennant is the only one, like I said, that really shows his face. Chris Lowe has stayed covered, so it was only the first couple albums where Chris Lowe actually showed his face on the albums. After the first two albums, Chris Lowe would stop showing his face and would always be wearing some sort of hat and some sort of dark glasses to hide himself. And of course, in concert and in public appearances, he's always got his hat and glasses on. It's just become the Chris Lowe look. So Please would be released in 1986, which would contain that new version of West End Girls and Opportunities, Let's Make Lots of Money. But it would have on it a couple of more smash hit singles that would propel the album even farther and propel them even farther in Suburbia, which would be the first single from the actual album, Suburbia, in 1986. And this is a 7-inch single version of Suburbia. And Love Comes Quickly. And as you can see, he's just starting, you know, the early roots of wearing the hat and glasses. His eyes are hidden here, but he's got the hat on. But he wouldn't go full incognito until 1988's Introspective. But this is Pet Shop Boys' Love Comes Quickly, also from that debut album, Please, from 1986. Then in 1986, they would release the fall of light, because the album was so massively, massively huge. In the fall of 1986, they would release the first of 4 so far albums over the career that they would call disco. And there have since this album been more discos, and we'll be talking about them later. But this is the first of a series of remix albums that they would release called Disco, also from 1986. After the smash hit success of 4 singles and a big, big album in Please, they would release Disco in the fall, which would have extended versions of Suburbia, the full horror, a fantastic mix. Opportunities, an extended version of that. Love Comes Quickly and West End Girls, all extended dance remixes, as well as a couple of other songs, Pananario and In the Night. A fantastic remix album, compliments Please very, very much. Disco from 1986. Then in 1987, they would continue their momentum and release their second album. And at the time of their second album, they released this here, which I was so fortunate to find this past summer in a flea market. This is a picture disc interview disc of the Pet Shop Boys discussing their second album. It was a radio show. This thing sounded great. I really enjoyed the interview. It runs around 30 minutes. And this is a picture disc of the Pet Shop Boys. And as you can see, he's already started adopting the glasses and the hat a little bit here too. But Pet Shop Boys interview to promote their second album. And on September 7th, 1987, they would drop their second album called Actually. And it would follow the concept of the first album cover, very similar, white album cover with a picture of the Pet Shop Boys in the center. This time a little bit bigger, but very similar style as their first album. And this album also was a hugely, hugely successful album. Like Please, Actually would be a massively successful album, spawning a number of huge, huge, huge top 10 singles as well. And those singles would be It's a Sin, It's a Sin, followed by What Have I Done to Deserve This, which featured Dusty Springfield on vocals as well as the Pet Shop Boys. Pet Shop Boys and Dusty Springfield had a very, very close relationship, and so she would work with them, and this would be one of the last things she would record before she passed away. What Have I Done to Deserve This? Dusty Springfield with Pet Shop Boys, and the third huge hit single from the album was Heart. The Heart, the third huge single from the album, Heart. And that was 1987. And rolling, and they were just a steamroller at this point. They were just charting, top 10 single after top 10 single after top 10 single. And then in 1988, I should say, in 1988, they would release a single. And I'm showing you the 12-inch version. They would release, of course, a 7-inch single, just a standalone single called, which was a cover of the very, very famous Always on My Mind, which was a massive success for Pet Shop Boys. Even more so, I think, worldwide. I mean, West End Girls is a classic and will always be their top song, but Always on My Mind followed on the heels of West End Girls very closely. It was a huge, huge, huge success for them. The cover of Always on My Mind. They made it their own. It's a synth pop anthem. This is the 12-inch extended version of that song, Always on My Mind, by the Pet Shop Boys. And after the huge, huge, huge success of Please, Actually, and their standalone single, Always on My Mind, the Pet Shop Boys would get involved in a number of projects, one being a major motion picture, another being their third studio album, and another one being a collaboration with another artist. I mean, they had Dusty Springfield appear on their last album in one song, but another artist that they always really loved was Liza Minnelli, believe it or not. They always loved Liza Minnelli, and they wanted to work with her, and they did so in 1988, and they actually wrote and recorded an album with Liza Minnelli. They wrote all the music, they recorded all the music for the album, and Liza Minnelli did the vocals, and it was called Results. Liza Minnelli, Results. Once again, a one-word title, that signature trademark of Pet Shop Boys product and albums. Results with Liza Minnelli. They did not identify themselves on this album other than in the album credits, when you read the credits. But all the songs were written by the Pet Shop Boys, performed by the Pet Shop Boys, with Liza Minnelli doing the lead vocals. And the album did not go over very well. It never charted, really, never had any big hit singles. Liza Minnelli was kind of wanting to reinvent herself, and Pet Shop Boys wanting to work with her. It's an interesting spin. I enjoy it, but it's not the greatest album. Certainly nothing like, you know, their first couple albums. But still, for a Pet Shop Boys fan, an absolute must-have. It's got some good music on it. Liza was great. It just, I don't know if the whole synth pop style really worked with Liza so much. But a good album nonetheless. And the Pet Shop Boys would actually release a few of their own versions of songs that appeared on this album years later. Liza Minnelli, Results, 1988. And then in 1988 would come their third studio album, a massively, massively successful album once again. And personally, probably my favorite album in their entire library, though being a massive fan, it's hard to really pick a favorite album. But if I was forced to, I would say this is my favorite album of their entire discography. A very different concept on this album, and it was called Introspective. Once again, a one-word title, Introspective. Very basic cover art, but this album is absolutely fantastic. This is a recent remaster. Chris Lowe remastered the entire Pet Shop Boys library, and they released them on vinyl a couple of years ago. But when this came out, I originally only had this album on CD. That's right, I only had this album on CD as where I lived. Vinyl was starting to phase out a little bit, and I had just got my first CD player, so this is my original first CD of that album. So I opted to get this album originally on CD, and I would never have it on vinyl until just very, very recently. But this album would drop in, this album dropped in the 10th of October, 1988, would be Introspective. And a fantastic album. They a much different approach to this album for 1988. Rather than having 10 songs like the previous albums had had, they only had 6 songs on this album. They were all really long, almost dance mix, extended mixes versions, without actually doing extended mixes. The extended mixes made up the album. But it had a couple of smash hits on it. That being Left to My Own Devices was the first smash hit. Another smash hit from the album was the incredible Domino Dancing. There's the 7-inch single version of Domino Dancing. And there is actually the 12-inch extended mix of Domino Dancing as well. That is the 12-inch version of Domino Dancing, maxi single, 12-inch extended mix. So they would do Domino Dancing, Left to My Own Devices, and Always on My Mind, which of course was a huge standalone single, would appear on this album in a completely different version. It was called Always on My Mind, In My House. It was kind of a medley of a couple songs smooshed together. It wasn't the same Always on My Mind that was a smash single. But they decided they should put some sort of version of Always on My Mind on this album. But there were only 6 songs on this album. Left to My Own Devices, I Want a Dog, Domino Dancing, I'm Not Scared, Always on My Mind, and It's All Right, which also became a single as well. A fantastic spin, beginning to end. I love this album. An absolute 10 out of 10. Introspective from 1988. Then we're going to fast forward ahead a little bit here now. We're going to fast forward ahead to their 4th studio album. But before their 4th studio album came out, they would release a movie. That's right, a major motion picture. Because of the massive success they were having, they did a major motion picture. And it was like almost an extended music video, if anything. It was, a 90-minute, almost, 90, somewhere between 90 minutes and 2-hour film. And it told a story, and it starred the Pet Shop Boys, and it came out in theaters. It was a major motion picture. But it was almost like a collection of music videos strung together to make a story. There was the film had a story. It did follow a path and had a story and had a couple famous actors in it. But it would feature music from Please, Actually, Always on My Mind. There was a big smash hit, 12-inch mix of Always on My Mind in the film, and of course Introspective. And they would produce this film almost like a music video, but it was a major motion picture. It's definitely an oddity and really worth a watch if you can find it. I know they have remastered and re-released it on Blu-ray. I need to get a copy of that remaster Blu-ray edition of it. But it was called It Couldn't Happen Here, starring the Pet Shop Boys. That's right. It Couldn't Happen Here, starring the Pet Shop Boys, a major motion picture. That's right, from 1988 as well. So with that being said and done, on we go. We would move into a jump ahead now, 2 years, because they were busy doing touring, dropping singles. The movie is out, and 2 years later, in 1990, would come their 4th studio LP, and that was entitled Behavior. That's right, Behavior. Once again, simplistic white cover. This time not showing Chris Lowe's face, as you can see. We got the back of Chris Lowe's head, but they kind of returned to what they'd done on the first 2 album covers. Now, once again, a one-word title, Behavior, which would be another moderately successful album. They were still riding high at this point, still riding high, and this thing had some hugely popular singles on it as well. And an incredible spin. You can't go wrong. They were just riding high. They were just bang, hit after hit after hit. Behavior, which I originally had, once again, only on CD. This is the original CD of Behavior that I had. Once again, only getting a vinyl version of that album just a couple of years ago, as vinyl was pretty much gone here in Canada in 1990. This album would drop in October 22nd of 1990. And it would spawn a number of popular hits. Being Boring was one single. The massively successful So Hard. This is the 12-inch mix of So Hard. So Hard, another massively successful single. So Hard, the 12-inch mix of So Hard. And How Can You Expect to Be Taken Seriously? Also, and this was actually a double A-sided 12-inch single with extended mixes of How Can You Expect to Be Taken Seriously and Being Boring. also in here, as well as We All Feel Better in the Dark, which was a very popular song that would appear on a number of compilations in later years. So from 1990, huge successful album in Behavior. And over the course of these two videos, I'll be covering their entire discography album-wise. They actually released 7 albums between 1981 and 1999. They released 7 albums, and then in the 2000s, so far, they have also released another 7 albums, and I'm just talking studio albums. That's not counting live albums, compilation albums, other types of albums which we'll be talking about later, and remix albums and so on. But actual studio albums, they've had 14 studio albums to date, 7 in the 80s and 90s, and 7 in the 2000 and 2010s and 20s. But in this video, we're only covering the 80s and 90s, and in part 2, which will be coming next week, I'll be covering their 2000s and 2010s right up to 2022. So after the success of the 4th album, Behavior, they would once again branch out and do some things before their 5th album. And a couple of the things they would do would be to work with a group which was almost like a super group. It was a collaboration group consisting of Johnny Marr and Bernard Sumner from New Order. And of course, Chris Lowe and Neil Tennant were also in the band, and they called themselves Electronic. And this was their debut album, Electronic. And this is a fantastic spin. And this is a recent remaster reissue of Electronic. The name of the band was Electronic, consisting, like I said, of Johnny Marr, Bernard Sumner, Chris Lowe, Neil Tennant appeared on this album, as well as others. It was a collaboration album, call it a super group, whatever you want to call it, Electronic, who would do a little bit of music. And this is a fantastic spin, self-titled album, Electronic. And that was from 1991. And also from 1992, Electronic would, with, of course, Neil Tennant and Chris Lowe in the band, Electronic would release a song for the soundtrack of Cool World. That's right, Cool World, the motion picture, a really fun animated, live action and animated film, Cool World, which would feature the song Disappointed by Electronic, featuring the Pet Shop Boys as well. And that was in 1992. And that is a recent reissue on a colored vinyl. Very cool edition. They would also release in a discography, their first greatest hits album. This would drop in, I believe this was 1991, would be their first compilation album called Discography. Once again, a one-word title, Discography. And as you can see, Chris Lowe is sporting a hat and sunglasses. Discography would drop on CD. I don't think I've ever seen it on vinyl. Probably there's a vinyl out there somewhere. But it was basically a greatest hits package consisting of their first 4 albums, plus a couple of new songs, as that was the thing to do back in those days, and still is now. They all throw out, a brand new song on a compilation album to help sell the album. But this one featured all the 7-inch mixes, not the extended versions or whatnot, but the 7-inch mixes of all the big hits from Please, Actually, Introspective, and Behavior. Plus a couple extra songs, DJ Culture, Was It Worth It, and a cover, a fantastic cover of Where the Streets Have No Name. I Can't Take My Eyes Off of You, a medley song they recorded of U2's Where the Streets Have No Name and I Can't Take My Eyes Off of You. A really great track that just really helped sell this album. And that was in 1991 as well. Then moving into 1993, they would just blow the roof off in 1993, album-wise, with one of their most successful albums. And this, too, has got to be maybe tied for my favorite Pet Shop Boy album, along with Introspective. This album, too, is a 10 out of 10. A fantastic spin. And it would catapult them once again into superstardom. And this album would drop on the 27th of September, 1993, and it was called Very. Pet Shop Boys, Very. This is a recent remaster and reissue. It never appeared on vinyl here in North America. When we got it on CD, which I'll show you in a second. This is the recent remaster by Chris Lowe of Very. But it would be released here in North America in this on CD in this really cool, almost like Lego textured plastic orange case. Once again, simplistic cover art, really, really artistic design. Very one-word title. Once again, with a sticker on the back. This is how it would be released here in North America on CD, and it had smash, smash, smash singles on it. Can You Forgive Her? Big hit. I wouldn't normally do this kind of thing. Huge hit. Liberation, huge, huge hit. Dreaming of the Queen, another big, big, big hit. Yesterday When I Was Mad was a single. 1 and 1 Make 5 was a single. And of course the super, super smash cover version of Go West, which originally I believe was done by the Village People. Go West, a iconic Pet Shop Boys song, Go West. And they would release it on this album, Very. And interestingly enough, when it became a practice from the 90s on, that the Pet Shop Boys would release 2 versions of an album. One very, very limited and exclusive, and one the regular. So while this was their regular release of Very, there was actually a very limited edition version of Very, and this is the limited edition version of Very, called Very Relentless. That's right, it had Very, but it came with a bonus album called Relentless in it. Very Relentless, and it was in this wallet-styled slip case, as you can see, with 2 little. There was the Very album, and there was the Relentless album. And the Relentless album would actually be remixes and bonus tracks of songs on Very. And it would be presented in this cool little wallet with the booklet. Very Relentless. This is a very, very rare CD indeed. Very Relentless, the alternate version of Very. After Very, they would release their second album, because Very, once again, being a massively successful album, they would release their second disco album. It was called Disco 2. Right now, only available on CD, as far as I know. Disco 2. I would love to get this on vinyl. Disco 2 would be released, which was a bunch of remixes from Very. It was all basically remixes from Very. Behavior as well. Behavior and Very were featured in remixes, similar to what they had done in with their first disco album, After Please. This one here, called Disco 2, would be a continuous mix. It was a non-stop mix, would feature one new song called Absolutely Fabulous, featuring the girls from the Absolutely Fabulous British television series would appear in the song Absolutely Fabulous, and it was basically a tribute to that TV show. Absolutely Fabulous would appear on this Disco 2. Then, after the massive success of Very and the complement Disco 2 albums, they would head out on a world tour and tour the world, and one of the stops on that world tour would be in Rio de Janeiro, where they would record a concert film on video called Discovery Live in Rio, which would be released exclusively at the time on Laserdisc, as Laserdisc was the latest medium of video. And so that concert film would end up getting dropped exclusively on Laserdisc. I never saw it on VHS or anything here. We got it on Laserdisc. It was the only way you could get it. I do have a copy of it on Laserdisc. And it was a fantastic film. It really showed the Pet Shop Boys in their peak, in their prime. They just couldn't go wrong or do anything wrong in 1993, 94. They were just at the top of the ladder of the mountain, king of the hill. They just could not go wrong, selling out stadiums, and it's a fantastic testament to seeing them in their peak. And that concert film was actually released just last year for the first time ever since that Laserdisc release. It was released on Blu-ray and CD, and I'll show you that in a minute. It's finally been released. And then we move into 1995, and they're just getting ready to do their 6th studio album. But before that, in 1995, they released the first of what there are so far 2 of compilations of B-sides. That's right, B-sides. And one thing the Pet Shop Boys have always prided themselves in doing is recording songs strictly as B-sides. A lot of artists would put not so popular tracks as B-sides. You know, B-sides got the nickname B-sides for a reason. They were just not quite as good as the A-side. A lot of B-sides would just be a deep cut from an album, or an outtake, something that was dumped from an album would be used as a B-side. But the Pet Shop Boys B-sides were never another song from the album. They wouldn't release another song from their album as a B-side. They would always record a song as a B-side. So you always got a quality song as a B-side. They weren't cutting room floor leftovers or anything like that. They were always recorded as B-side, and Pet Shop Boys through the years have recorded lots and lots of what you would call B-sides or standalone songs that were not singles. They've released a massive amount of standalone songs recorded as just extra songs, not recorded as singles, just extra songs, and their library of extra songs and B-sides rivals their entire studio album library. You know, they've got 14 studio albums. They probably have almost as many worth of as many songs to make at least 14 albums as well if they were to release it all in albums. But what they have done is they've released a couple of compilations so far of those, and the first came out in 1995, and this is pretty rare to find now. It's called Alternative, and this was an official release by the Pet Shop Boys, Alternative, and it was a 2 CD collection of all of those B-sides from the beginnings, from Please right through to Very, a collection of all the B-sides and extra songs they had recorded, collected up in 2 packed CDs, so 80 minutes each, these CDs. So that's the equivalent of 4 LPs worth of music, all in these B-sides and extra tracks. A fantastic spin if you can find it. Pet Shop Boys, once again, a one-word title, keeping it simple with just their faces on the cover. Alternative by the Pet Shop Boys in 1995. 1996 would roll around and would be their 6th studio album, and it would actually drop in September of 1996, and it was entitled Bilingual. That's right, Bilingual, a fantastic spin. Didn't quite do as well in North America. They were kind of starting to cool off in North America. Very was probably the last big album here in North America, though in Canada, I know in the United States, they pretty much cooled off pretty quick in the United States and have never really captured the United States on the level that they did up to Very. But here in Canada, Pet Shop Boys have always been massively popular. They've had staying power here in Canada, and certainly in my lifetime, following them right from the beginning, they've had massive staying power with me. But Bilingual would come out in 1996, which would have great success here in Canada, but I think in the U.S. had kind of cooled off from them at that point. But this would be hugely popular all over the world, other than probably the U.S. Bilingual, a fantastic spin. Once again, it would have a number of huge singles, being Sia Vida was a huge single. Red Letter Day was a massive single. I love that song. And before To Step Aside, some great singles on this album. Bilingual from 1996, and of course that is once again a recent Chris Lowe remaster and issue on vinyl, and I think certainly on vinyl for the first time anywhere here. Being 1996, vinyl was pretty much gone, so pretty much the first time ever on vinyl in North America. My original CD version of Bilingual looked like this. It had a very cool cover. It had like a frosted jewel case, which was really cool. A frosted jewel case cover. Very cool cover. Once again, keeping their covers very simple. Bilingual by the Pet Shop Boys. And that is the original CD version of that album. And now we're up to 1999. And the last one I'm going to show you in today's video from the Pet Shop Boys, their 1999 release and 7th studio album. And this one would drop in October of 1999, just in time for the new millennium, and it was called Nightlife. That's right, Nightlife from 1999. Pet Shop Boys, Nightlife from 1999. This once again being the recent remaster reissue by Chris Lowe, the first time on vinyl for this one. Nightlife from 1999. A fantastic spin, and this one had some great songs on it. Closer to Heaven which would go on to go into a musical. They did a musical in the 2000s, which we'll talk about in the next video, called Closer to Heaven. So there's a song called Closer to Heaven on here. This had a smash hit, two smash hit singles on it. I Don't Know What You Want, but I Can't Give It Anymore. And the other big single on here was New York City Boy. And I saw these guys. I saw the Nightlife tour. It was a fantastic show. Nightlife in 1999. Their next album, 7th studio album. And once again, like I showed you with the Very album, they would release an extended version of that album, a limited edition on CD. I didn't buy the regular CD. I managed to snag one of the limited editions in this clear slip case called Nightlife. But it not only had the Nightlife album in a digipack, but once again, it had a second album on it called Nightlife Extra. That's right, Nightlife Extra, a whole CD of remixes and extra songs, once again following that formula like they did with Very, releasing an album with an extra disc in it, Nightlife and Extra from 1999. And here is the single, one of the CD singles from that album. This is I Don't Know What You Want, But I Can't Give It Anymore, the original maxi single, CD single from that album. And last but not least on the show, I'm just going to show you a couple other things here. These are two unofficial CDs I picked up back in the day. Bootlegs, whatever you want to call them. They were bootleg releases. But they're really good because they had a lot of unreleased just live recordings from maybe soundboards and whatnot, plus some alternate mixes that were pulled from CD singles and 12-inch singles. I've only shown you a handful of 12-inch singles and 7-inch singles and things. I haven't shown you on CD singles. I've just been showing you a few things here because I've got so much in my library. But there would be a couple things would come out. This one was called Required, an unofficial Pet Shop Boys album dropped in 1999 called Required, which was a collection of 12-inch mixes. It included the Disappointed from Cool World on there. It included some mixes that were taken from Laserdisc music videos, because a number of Pet Shop Boys music videos appeared on a Laserdisc compilation. So there are some Laserdisc mixes on here. Really cool, unofficial compilation, Required, and then a two CD compilation entitled Rare, also an unofficial CD with two full CDs of very rare Pet Shop Boys stuff that they had not to that time released. Pet Shop Boys Rare, also an unofficial compilation. And last up on the show, I'm just going to show you these here really quickly. In recent years, in the 2010s, Pet Shop Boys have been remastering all of their studio albums and re-releasing them not only on vinyl but on CD, completely remastered on CD. And with those CDs, they include an extra 1 or 2 discs of CDs, which include all the material that was recorded during the time of those albums. And they are called the Further Listening series. I highly recommend them. And this is Pet Shop Boys' first album, Please, plus Further Listening. And Further Listening, of course, contains all the other music they recorded, things they had never released in any other format from 1984 to 1986, including 7-inch mixes, B-sides, all that sort of stuff, unreleased tracks, an entire CD full of extra material besides the Please album. The Actually album would come next, Actually and Further Listening, and this would be Further Listening from 1987-88, so everything that was recorded around the time of the Actually album. The next remaster would be, of course, Introspective, including a second disc as well, called Further Listening 1988-1989. All the songs that were recorded around the time of the Introspective album. Next would be Pet Shop Boys Behavior, Further Listening, also with an extra CD, and this extra CD would be Further Listening 1990 and 91. All the things they recorded around the time of the Behavior album. And then would be Pet Shop Boys Very, the remaster of Very, also with an extra CD, once again, featuring Further Listening 1992 to 94, and all the extra music recorded during that album. Followed up by Pet Shop Boys, Bilingual, the remaster, once again featuring Further Listening 1995 to 97. And then last up, Nightlife, Pet Shop Boys Nightlife remaster. And this was a triple CD. It would actually have 2 extra CDs of material recorded from Bilingual right through till 2000. So it was 1996 to 2000. 2 volumes of extra music that they had pumped out in that period. So fantastic if you can find these. And last up on the show is a couple of concert films that were recorded during that time. The first one is from I believe this was recorded around around the Behavior time. This one was called Somewhere, Pet Shop Boys Concert. Somewhere. This was originally released only in Europe. This is a bootleg version of it. It was released on PAL, never released in North America. It's called Somewhere. Really a great concert from that era, from the very Bilingual, all that era. The first real concert film that would come out on right at the beginning of the DVD age was Pet Shop Boys Montage, the Nightlife tour. So this is a recording of the actual Nightlife tour, world tour. A fantastic concert film to see the Nightlife tour. And this was recorded in 5.1 surround. So it's got really great audio. Nightlife, the Nightlife tour this was Pet Shop Boys Montage. And that was released right at 2000, the end of 99, from the Nightlife tour, which went into 2000. And as I had mentioned earlier, the Discovery Live in Rio in 1994 has been released for the first time on DVD and CD. Finally available for the first time on DVD and CD. Pet Shop Boys, originally released only on Laserdisc, and now just released last year, 2021, released on a double CD and DVD version. And that's it. That's all. Hope you enjoyed this video. Watch for part 2 coming next week as I dive into the other 7 studio albums, some live albums, some other things they did, such as soundtracks and even a ballet. I'll be featuring all of that in part 2 of my Pet Shop Boys catalog and deep dive into the Pet Shop Boys. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope I've maybe inspired you guys to get into some Pet Shop Boys. They are fantastic. They are legends. They should be in everybody's record collection. And like I said, if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Thumbs up always make people feel good. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber, and turn that notification bell on so you don't miss any of my videos. Comments welcome down below. I always reply to every comment, as comments are the best way to make a channel better. And last but not least, don't forget to follow me on my Instagram, and my Instagram is at AGK_lifetime of vinyl, where I post my spin of the day every day, among other things. Until next time, as I always say, rock and roll!